Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and for this week's episode of Everyday Jew, let's make some Shabbat dinner. So first things first, before I get into anything else, we're going to have to preheat our oven to 350 degrees before we start our spaghetti squash noodle cocoa. Now, all the recipes for everything is going to be in the description bar below, so I'm going to tell you a little bit of stories and fun facts about Shabbat dinner when I was growing up. Now, noodle cocoa is one of my favorite dishes of all time, and every time I think about it, I can actually taste my grandmother's recipe and smell it because it's just so good. So this is a cool variation that I found using spaghetti squash, so it makes it actually a little bit healthier. So just throw that in the oven for 45 minutes, and then you're going to have to flip it over. But before we even get started on that, let's get into our apricot chicken. Now, apricot chicken is kind of a play on a recipe that my Aunt Veronica does for the holidays, and the chicken that my grandmother normally does whenever I go over there. So this is just a nice, fun, sweet, but not super sweet chicken that you can just throw in the oven. It's great for every day, and it's really simple to make. It's literally 5 ingredients: mayo, apricot jam, garlic, pepper, and chicken. That's it, and all you have to do is let it marinate. You can either let it marinate for an hour, or you can let it marinate for any time after that. But this chicken is kind of special to me because it's not just a normal like rotisserie chicken. It's a little bit sweeter, so it definitely represents what my family would make, and it reminds me a lot of home and when I'd go and see everyone for the holidays. And it may look really gross, but I promise you it tastes absolutely delicious. And the good thing is you can literally let this marinate overnight, so you can cook it beforehand and then have everyone over for Shabbat dinner. Okay, so let's get back to that spaghetti squash because it's really delicious. All I'm going to do is quickly flip it over so that it cooks really through. So, and the only reason I'm cooking it before I do anything is A, you need to cook spaghetti squash, and B, because it's really hard to cut it open. So that's why it's in there whole. Pop that in for another 20-30 minutes. Now, usually with kugel, it's very sweet. They do have savory ones, and I remember dreading savory kugels during Passover because you can't have egg noodles. And then, of course, as I grew up, I found kosher for Passover egg noodles. So this is just a nice little recipe that's kind of reminds me a lot of what my grandmother used to do, but I feel like hers was a little bit thicker. I think that has to do not only with the egg noodles, but also with what she would put in it. So maybe I'll do a recipe on just cocoa one day because it's just so good, and it really is like a traditional Jewish soul food, essentially. It's like a sweet Jewish soul food. So, and it reminds me a lot of home. So now I'm just putting together everything to make the kugel really sweet. And funny story, my sister loves my grandmother's kugel so much that she used to try and get someone to freeze it and send it to her, because my grandmother's kugel, it's one of those like really homey things, and you always think about the holidays, and you think about going over to my grandmother's for Shabbat dinner, and even the gummy bears that she used to keep in the house in the front foyer. Like, it's one of those rememberable foods. So I know that a lot of cultures have one of those foods, and I definitely feel that matzo ball soup and kugel are the like 2 staples of Jewish food that like everyone can enjoy. So that's why I wanted to share it with you guys. It's actually probably one of my favorite things. And the good thing is the recipe that I'm making is actually considered like 2 single serving, like individual sizes. So really good if you don't want to make a whole batch or you just want a quick kugel. So I'm just going to throw that all into my little silicone baking pan and mix it all up. And I ended up adding in a lot more spaghetti squash because I wanted more kugel, really. And who couldn't blame me? So, but now that that's all set, I'm going to put all the chicken that was marinating into a pan, and I'm going to cover it up with tin foil because now we really get to cook pretty much all of our Shabbat dinner. This is the only 2 things that you really need to cook because I'm not going to be cooking challah this time. Future episode, not right now. So I'm going to end up putting the kugel and the chicken into the oven at the same time. And let me tell you, when I put these in the oven and everything started to cook, the smells were making me so like homesick for my family, but like not in a horrible way. Like it reminded me of Shabbat dinners growing up and going over to my grandparents' house. So it reminded me of the holidays and everything else. And this kugel was amazing and delicious. And I wish I just had like raisins to it and a little bit of brown sugar on the top, and then it would have literally been a dead ringer. for my grandmother's cocoa. So I'm just going to put the chicken back in uncovered for another 40, I believe it was like 45 minutes is what I ended up doing. So, and then of course, usually there is some kind of greens that's involved. Sometimes it's just normal salad. I found this really awesome like slaw that was pretty much everything that I liked, because it was carrots and apples, which is a big thing, especially coming up. We're going to do a lot talking about apples with Rosh Hashanah, so stay tuned for that. So I just put some carrots and some apples into a really big bowl, and then I got this head of cabbage, and I just started to rip off all the leaves so I can cut it up pretty much. I don't really remember like a particular salad that my family used to do for Shabbat dinners. Sometimes it would just be like mixed greens, and like that's when I started to fall in love with red wine vinaigrette. So it definitely reminded me of growing up. So just putting the cabbage that I have shredded up into the bowl, and then I added in a little bit of cilantro or bitter herbs, and then I added in some fresh mint as well. And then just top it off with a little bit of apple cider vinegar and some canola / vegetable / olive oil, and then just mix it all up. Now you guys have your salad essentially for your Shabbat dinner, which is great because it doesn't have a lot of stuff that a lot of people can't eat. Now when it comes to placing our Shabbat table, I have my loaves of challah bread, I have my quote-unquote kiddush cup, and my wine, and my makeshift Shabbat candle holders. But very cool. My mom actually just told me that she bought me some Shabbat candle holders. So very excited. So let's put together our plate. We just have some salad, we have our kugel, and then we have our chicken. Now let's get into the prayers that we do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehamikner shal Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam hamotzi lechem mim haaretz. So I hope this gave you guys a nice little taste of what it's like to make a Shabbat dinner and what type of stuff you usually have, as well as what the blessings are, so that whenever you see it in a movie or you go to a friend's house, you kind of understand what each one is for. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to give this video a nice big thumbs up. Hit subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you guys next week. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.